Hello and welcome back to another episode of Diablo to D&D. My name is David, and today I'm talking spellcasting. First, an announcement. I have made not a full move, but I have made an account on Bluesky, so you can find me on there for both my Diablo to D&D as well as my Xenos Fan 2 accounts. So if you're interested, come stop by and give me a follow. But let's get into the campaign update. They are done with the summoner. Yay! I kind of had to fudge a lot of the numbers, but it was actually rather enjoyable, other than the fact that the summoner got stunned multiple times in a row, and I had to fudge the fact that he was that I basically just DM fiated his stun into a no, he's not. But with the creation of the goatmen, the rest of the goatmen, I was actually able to drop some Death Clan into the fight as layer actions. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Now they are technically on the 7 tombs. So we'll be seeing how well that goes. I want to get the Act 2 done by the end of the year, because one of my players is for sure leaving, and another one is leaving sometime in 2025. So I just want to get as far as I can. But it shouldn't take too terribly long. I think we're going to do one session as a hex crawl, as they are looking for the actual tomb, and then probably just do a mini dungeon, or just skip the dungeon entirely and go straight to the boss fight. I think that's pretty much it. It's been quite a few weeks since we've actually been able to sit down and, play, due to things happening at the end of the year and the fact that I was prepping for Vegas as well. So anyway, let's get on to the changelog. So first off, if you remember a month ago, Golem Mastery used to give advantage on Golem damage rolls, and now it just gives extra attack. That is way simpler and way better, and I'm so glad I actually came up with that. Kind of a duh. As a side note, there is a new subclass that I have not fleshed out for the Necromancer, that is the Golemmancer. So there will be new stuff coming, but I don't know exactly when that will be. The Barbarian's Stun now gives the creature advantage on the saving throw if it is larger than you. I figured that stun needed to be nerfed, and there may be more stuns in the future, such as being unable to be stunned if it succeeds on the saving throw, because that is way powerful. The Sorceress's ability to regain the use of abilities for Warmth and Burning Enchantment have been switched. The idea is that Burning Enchantment was supposed to be your more powerful one, and Warmth was the less powerful one. The problem was kind of the flavor as well, because Warmth is immediate, and Burning Enchantment is over a short rest. So I swapped them around. This was from some testing in Vegas. So I swapped them around so that there would be a little bit better balance, so that you're also encouraged to take short rests. Inferno, Bane of My Existence, no longer has a useless for 1 minute and no longer requires concentration. It's just I can create a line of fire. That's all it is. The Shocking enchantment for the Sorceress just deals an additional 1d4 lightning damage instead of increasing dice by a step. I figured 1d4, especially in higher levels, that's what it was. At higher levels, it's less likely that you will be beating their armor class by 5 or having them fail by 5 or more. So it's less and less likely that you'll be able to get those additional damage dice. So I figured I'd just give it to you. Also on the Sorceress, the Energy Shield now works with only Sorceress class abilities. I mean, it's kind of future-proofing for multi-classing, if that ever comes to it. But just cutting off a corner case just in case. Revive for the Necromancer is now a range of touch rather than at range. I think I forgot to clarify that. I said you can just target it, but forgot to put a range in, so now it is officially just touch. The Shapeshifter Druid's Maul no longer requires you to hit an enemy, but instead just hit. This kind of works for if you want to break down a door or break something else. You don't have to hit a creature, you can just hit. The Sorceress's Shocking Enchantment is now a D6. I figured again that it's probably better so that at high levels you actually can get that better feeling of dealing an additional D6 rather than just a D4. For all classes, this is actually fairly new, I think. I don't have anything that is an all on here. But for all classes, the Epic Boon has been removed at 20th level. I haven't figured out what I want to replace them with, but I have an extra level to work with. The reason being is because I want to focus more in on that 2014 feel rather than the 2020 feel. So that's being pulled out, and I'll figure something out here. For the Druid, Form of the Beast, which was the 18th level capstone feature, has been moved to the 20th level feature. This is to bring it more in line with the Archdruid ability from the Dungeons & Dragons Druid. So it feels better. You can shapeshift and then end it and then shapeshift again if you need to. And lastly, the Necromancer's Golem Mastery ignores a negative intelligence modifier for the damage, I believe. It adds your intelligence modifier to the damage rolls unless it is negative. So, now let's talk spellcasting. So in the files, I have created a new file called 1.2 D&D Class Spell Progression. This is a way to look at all of the classes that have spellcasting, including the Fighter and the Rogue, the Eldritch Knight, and the Arcane Trickster, and just a way to compare them so that I understand, I can see, have a visual representation of how they actually work. And there is some interesting things that I've found. I have another one right here, 1.3 D&D spellcasting notes, that goes into just some of the notes and details that I've found. So there are 3 types of casters. There are, of course, what I've got here is 1 casters. I can't do spaces on the names, so I've just got 1 casters. Those are your full casters, your Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. Warlock's a bit weird because I kind of consider them 3/4 casters, but whatever. And all of these, minus the Warlock, have the same spellcasting progression that you can see right here. There are half casters, which are the Artificer, Paladin, and Ranger, which use half their level in determining the spells, rounded up, that are determining the spells that they can use. And then lastly are the 1/3 casters. These use 1/3 of their level rounded up to determine how many spells they get. So they cap out at fourth level spell slots, but they do get some cantrips. They get the same number of spells as the other one, but they cap out at that 7th level right there. Yeah, I'm not going to go too terribly much into some of the details that I have here. You can just check it out if you want to look. I don't know how much I'm going to be tweaking in this one, the spellcasting notes, but all of this is put together so that I have something to look at for the Druid, the Necromancer, and the Sorceress gaining spellcasting. Yay! Isn't this wonderful? The Druid is a half-caster, which is why they're capping out at that 5th level, but the Necromancer and the Sorceress are both full casters. So as I was putting this all together, I figured that I would need to figure out what kind of spellcasting progression I wanted, because none of the right here. No two classes have the same combination of number of cantrips, prepared or learned spells, number of learned spells, and spellcasting progression. Meaning, are they a full caster, half caster, or a 1/3 caster? So you'll see that, like for the fighter and the rogue, they have different number of cantrips. The artificer has cantrips, but the paladin and ranger do not. The artificer and the paladin are both prepared spellcasters, but the ranger is a learned spellcaster. The bard gets a ridiculous number of learned spells. The cleric, the druid, both are prepared spellcasters, but they have different number of cantrips. The sorcerer has a ton of cantrips. The warlock has, aside from the, spellcasting progression here, they also cap out at 15 spells, but it's different from the sorcerer's 15 spells in the later levels, from level 10 to level 18. Level 10 to level 18, there's different numbers. And then the wizard is technically a learned spellcaster, but they also prepare their spells. So it's kind of that weird mix. So all of these are very different. And I wanted to see what I could take and put into the druid. So because these are half-caster, they are intended to be more of a kind of martial emphasis as well. I went with the half-caster from the artificer, so they actually get it at first level. The paladin and the ranger in the 2014 don't get it at first level, but I figured technically it's kind of what they're intending with the artificer, so I gave it to him at first level. But the spells known is the same progression as the ranger. You get one every other level. And then I pulled the cantrips known from the artificer. It's basically an artificer with the learned spells from the ranger, I guess. And that's pretty much it. Now, something to note is that there are no empty levels here. Every spellcaster has empty levels. This is in the Diablo 2 class outline. So this was me kind of putting things together to show, well, how Dungeons & Dragons put their classes together. All of these dashes here are blank levels where you don't get anything other than spellcasting. Red are martial classes, blue are full casters, and green are half casters. On the far right, you'll see that X is the subclass features, and the dash is the blank levels. And I have on the right is the total number across all the classes, and then at the bottom here is the total number per class. And so you'll notice that martials have no blank levels. Full casters, other than the bard, the full casters have between 5 and 8 blank levels. Oh, that's going to be interesting. Anyway, and then the half-casters have 2 to 3. I might have to redo the warlocks, but whatever. 2 to 3 blank levels. So when we get to the druid, the way that I'm going to introduce those blank levels is pulling out the spirits. So I've got the spirit of health, the spirit of attack, and the spirit of barbs. And you'll find a new subclass here called if I can find it, the spiritualist. The spiritualist will be able to get those spirits themselves, so they are a kind of paladin of sorts, but they'll be able to switch out their spirits and gain those quote-unquote auras. But we'll see exactly how that'll shake out. I don't have the balancing of the classes done exactly yet. I have ideas, but I will eventually get those all put together. The 18th level, like I said, in the changelog is now empty. That might just be an empty level, or maybe not. We'll see how all of this will shake out, because I know that things are going to change. Also, the poison vine and the were form might switch. the Druid at level, the D&D Druid at level 2 gets their, oh shoot, what is it called? Wild Shape. So moving Wereform up to that level might mimic it better. But also I kind of wanted to put the idea that the Druid is a half-caster, kind of this martial spellcaster. And getting both of those at first level are a great indication of what this thing can do. But that's it for the Druid. Let's talk about the Necromancer. So the Necromancer has this awful looking table right here. I feel so bad for these squished up things. Anyway, that's visual stuff. So let's talk about the spellcasting. Spellcasting is full progression because it is a full caster, but the spells known is taken from the Sorcerer? Warlock. It's taken from the Warlock. You can tell because it has the 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12, and so on. So it actually gets a fairly sizable progression up till 9th level, and then it kind of tapers off. I wanted the Necromancer to focus more on their class abilities rather than their spellcasting, because I kind of wanted to redirect the focus back onto the curses rather than just the spells. So they don't get as many spells as one might normally get, or better spell progression. They also only have 2 cantrips to start off with, capping out at 4 at the 10th level. Again, to kind of bring that focus onto their class features rather than their spell casting. Other than that, I don't have an idea of what I want to do to create those empty levels. This might be an opportunity for me to bump Golem Mastery up to 20th level and then shake up how many curses you get. I might just say you get 2 curses and then you can swap them out as you level up. So you don't get, I think it was 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think I might just cap it out at 2. Yeah, you get 2 at 2nd level, and then you can swap them out as you level up. I think is going to be a good way to do that. Yeah, that's probably the best. Anyway, you'll see, like I mentioned in the changelog, the Golemancer right there. The Golemancer is one subclass, one build that people in Diablo 2 have been wanting for a long, long time. But because the Golem is so bad by itself, it just never became any good. So that kind of sucked. But yeah, you'll be able to play it in D&D. Now, I don't have any ideas of what I want to do with it. One of my players suggested pulling inspiration from the Battlesmith Artificer, but ultimately we'll see. We'll figure out something. Lastly is the Sorceress, and you'll see it is a full spellcaster. It starts with 3 cantrips. This was kind of I think it's the Cleric and the Wizard. Both start off with 3 cantrips. But their spells known is pulled from the Sorcerer, because there's more emphasis on spellcasting. Now, that being said, there is something I want to do with the Sorceress. So I had an idea of, instead of spell slots per level, nixing that, and instead kind of going the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer or 4 Elements Monk, where you can cast spells using a resource that increases with your level. So the idea behind it was you gain 1 point per level, so maxing out at 20, and then you spend the points instead of spell slots. So the exact number is going to be up for debate and questioning. But I was thinking 1 point per spell level. So at level 2, you can cast 2 first level spells, and level 3, you can cast a second level and a first level spell, or 3 first level spells. The problem that I ran into is 9th level spells. When you get up that high, you can cast 2 level 9 spells. And yeah, that's really powerful. I mean, that's the entirety of your spellcasting, right? You burn 2 9th level spells, and you've got nothing else in the tank. But I mean, that's 2 9th level spells. So, but the question is really about regeneration. When do they come back? And I don't know. If they all come back on a short rest, like the monk's key points do, then you can cast 2 9th level spells and then wait an hour and cast 2 9th level spells. And that just becomes incredibly game breaking. However, if you get up to, say, half your spell slots or half your spell points back, then you're only casting 1 9th level spell every short rest. And just being able to dump all of your magic into incredibly, incredibly powerful spells. I mean, you are like 17th level, so that is going to be pretty big. But, well, I guess you'd have to be 18th level. Anyway, but you still are casting a 9th level spell every hour. What I could potentially do is instead you regain your proficiency bonus in points back. So this way it would cut back on how many times you can cast a 9th level spell in a day, but it's still basically every other hour I get, a 9th level spell. So what I potentially could do is instead, if you have less than your proficiency bonus, or in spell points, then you gain it back up to your proficiency. So this way, you can burn everything in your tank. You could just dump everything into your, 7th, 8th, and 9th level spells, but then when you take a short rest, you only get up to a 6th level spell slot. So this way, it's kind of this mix between a warlock and a wizard, because the wizard has arcane recovery. They can just regain spell slots, and then throw in a dash of sorcerer because you're using sorcery points, quote unquote sorcery points. But then you'd also have kind of this short rest recovery of magic like the warlock does. I think that's a really good idea. This is kind of what warmth could become. I would probably bump frozen armor and warmth, or switch those around so that your warmth becomes your proficiency bonus at level 2. Recovers up to your proficiency bonus at level 2. And so you always have something to use, but it's not going to be incredibly powerful. Now, granted, you could just get silvery barbs and have 20 castings of silvery barbs. Or 20 castings of shield or something like that. But that means that your lower level spells are still going to be useful. I think one way to make this better, or not better, but more balanced, is that you won't be able to upcast spells. So you would be able to cast Fireball at 3rd level, and at higher levels you could get, say level 15, you're able to get 5 Fireballs off, but they're only going to be 3rd level spells. That is a balancing thing that I could throw in there. I kind of like that. So at higher levels, you'd get you'd remax to 6 points because that's your proficiency, and so you'd get 2 fireballs off. I think I kind of like that. Well, I'll talk to my players. I'll see if I can tweak some things around because that is definitely something interesting. You'll always have your cantrips. I play a warlock, so I rely heavily on my cantrips. But let me know if those sorcery points, I'm thinking mana points, but sorcery points would also work. And let me know what you think. One thing I forgot to mention is the fact that these are D&D characters, but the spell lists that they would be using are different. The Druid clearly pulls from the Druid spells from Dungeons & Dragons, but the Necromancer pulls from the Wizard class, and the Sorceress pulls from the Sorcerer class. Now, it's a little weird because the Sorceress is also supposed to be the Wizard analog, but also the Necromancer is supposed to be the Wizard analog. And the Druid is just a Druid. So, I don't know. It just kind of felt right to me to use the Sorceress and Sorcerer spell lists. But this is just a kind of a stopgap until I get an actual list thrown together for the Sorceress and the Necromancer, because those are going to definitely be very different. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it for me. You can find me at XenozFan2, that is XenozFan2, on Twitter and Bluesky and Reddit. And you can find the channel directly at Diablo TODND on Twitter and Bluesky and YouTube. Thank you much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good whatever.